Soul. Disney has a soul. Soul to your feet. Disney. Hey, Disney are taking your soul. No, Disney are giving soul. Disney, now it's soul. Soul. Look, I don't have a joke to start the review. We're just going to have to come back to it. Maybe I'll think of one later on. Pixar's latest film is an existential dive into the human psyche. What makes us who we are. Move over, Frozen. Here's something the kids are really gonna love. Throw out that Elsa doll, because everyone this year is gonna want Joe's soul. All jokes aside, one of the more admirable things about Pixar is that they generally don't make films that feel like disposable kids' entertainment like so many others. They just don't really talk down to kids. They tell them pretty challenging stories that have lofty themes and ideas. In Soul, they have perhaps their most ambitious attempt yet at telling complex concept stories for the whole family. If I had to give a sort of elevator pitch for Soul, it's a combination of two of Pixar's previous efforts. It's half Coco and half Inside Out. It tackles the kind of question of morality, which they've done quite well in the past, but it also dives into some of the broader philosophical debates like the meaning of life and what makes us all unique. It takes us on a sort of journey through different astral planes and different metaphysical states and all that jazz. Hey, that's a good joke if you've seen the film. One of my big concerns going into this movie was that it could very easily be overburdened with exposition and collapse under the weight of itself, but they do a great job of avoiding that pitfall. In fact, I was very surprised how much time was left in the film once the layout of the universe and the laws of the world had been established, as well as the emotional stakes of the story. But that was what kind of surprised me, because it would be very easy for this story to feel a bit disconnected or cold if we spent the whole film in this sort of soul world. But in fact, the bulk of the film and where the story really gets started is when we're back on Earth, which helps the story feel a lot more grounded and makes the emotional beats all that more successful. As much as there are some complex mechanics at play, the broad strokes of the story are actually relatively simple. We follow Joe Gardner, who is an aspiring jazz musician who, when presented with the opportunity of a lifetime, dies, leaving his body and his soul separated and him upstairs in the great beyond. In doing this, he meets a soul known as 22, who has never been paired with a body and never experienced life on Earth, despite many people trying to get her to do so. And Joe hopes that in helping her, that his body and soul can reunite and he can get back to Earth in time for his big break as a musician. Some of the more ardent Pixar fans might notice that we're basically left with another road trip buddy movie, something that has been frustratingly prevalent in their films as of late. As much as this could be used to tarnish the film, for me at least, I found this a lot more successful than some of their more recent efforts. I think it turned a film that could very easily have been a dense slog into a relatively breezy affair. Naturally, since this is a Pixar joint, we're hoping for some really good animation, and thankfully, this is a fantastic looking film. I mean, for a long time it felt like Pixar didn't really nail what humans look like, but here it feels like they've really done their best job yet. Aside from the humans, and as important for this film, is the human world that they inhabit, and it's a gorgeous world they've made here. It's really almost photorealistic at times, which is vital because so much of the film does hinge on how beautiful life is and the world around us. So that is really key to this film, and not least of which because this time they based it in a real location, New York. On the other hand, due to the nature of the film, they're able to explore a few different animation styles, and I think that was a pretty cool idea, but I don't feel they kind of went as far as they could have with it, personally. I would say one of my bigger complaints is The Great Beyond, as much as it was fine, it was kind of boring in my opinion. Like, it was colourful, but it just didn't feel very original, and I will say the design of the soul counselors made me think I was watching like a big budget version of that Russian Itchy and Scratchy.
What the hell was that?
The voice work in the film is excellent. Jamie Foxx and Tina Fey just played off each other really well, which helped us kind of get invested in their story. And of course, with jazz being so pivotal to the plot, the soundtrack and the sound in general in the film is just outstanding, and it really added a great atmosphere to the film. The movie in general just sort of has a jazzy tone to it, like it felt a bit less structured and more improvisational, which really just makes for a pleasant watch. I didn't think the film was like all that funny. There was some jokes that did land, but I thought it succeeded a lot better when it went for an emotional scene as opposed to a humorous scene. There was also a running joke about the mentors 22 had that kind of gave up on her, who were all these, famous historical figures, which I kind of thought they ran into the ground. There is some payoff towards it at the end, but overall I don't know if it seems massively necessary, to be honest. Personally for me, this is certainly one of the best Pixar films in a while. It's one of their best original films in recent memory, probably surpasses some of the sequel output as well. It just had more ambition, and it was definitely superior to Onward, which we got earlier in 2020, if you cast your mind back to what feels like centuries ago. It just felt like it had a more cohesive vision. It had something to say. It had more soul. That was terrible. That's pretty much all I have to say about Soul. It's a wonderfully animated film that definitely tackles some pretty heavy topics without feeling slight. And while I don't think it reaches the levels of, say, an Inside Out, I do think it's far superior to a lot of Pixar's more recent entries. And while I didn't think it was a massively entertaining film, I did find it to be quite a touching one. I think a movie about the meaning of life and, in many ways, how great it is to be alive is certainly a film we could all do with after the year we've had. How have I not come up with a joke? This should be easy. Ha ha ha! Right. The only reason Disney made this film is so now we can't call them a soulless corporation. Ha ha!